Hello, everybody. Man, I am just not getting the hang of this live setup with YouTube Studio. It's terrible. I'm just old, I guess. Anyway, welcome to SciWorx. Any of you coming over from SciTrek, welcome. Let me put a little snappy thingy in the chat. Hello, all. There we go. Today, for our AMA, we're going to talk about Mars. Lots going on about Mars. Right now, the most amazing thing, at least for me, about Mars is the fact that it's the only planet we know of that's inhabited entirely by robots. Think about it. It's only got robots. So that we do have a planet inhabited entirely by robots, and that's just such an exciting thing for us, or at least me, I mean, wow. I've still got coffee left over from the SciTrek thing. Lots of other stuff in the news concerning Mars these days. Lots going on. We have, of course, the biggest thing above and beyond the trash that we found today on Mars. Apparently, one of the trash from one of the parachutes we used to land on Mars showed up between pieces of it, showed up between some rocks on Mars. We took a picture of it with our robotic cameras. And that was kind of, I don't know, that was kind of bizarre. So microphone testing 1 2 3 testing. This looks like it's just, what's wrong with my microphone? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. So I guess it worked last time, so we'll just hope it's working there. Fingers crossed. So it looks like we have one person in the room. If you could just drop in the chat room for a second and just see and tell me if the audio is okay, I'd appreciate it. Is working or before, so So anyway, we had some news on Mars. Is concerning the bits of trash. So I'll put a link from Interesting Engineering in the chat so you can see what I'm looking at here. But it's kind of remarkable. I mean, it's apparently, it is part, if you really zoom in, you can tell that it is part of the parachute. Well, they're actually they're now saying it was part of the parachute. Now it's part of the thermal blanket that may have come from the descent stage, the rocket-powered jetpack that set down on landing day back in 2021. I ask, then they also show like some of the shroud, the heating shroud, and bits and pieces spread all over. They also show a little, looks like bit of the a parachute in the background. Yeah, it's a bloody mess. I guess we could call that archaeology, maybe. Hey, Ian, how's my sound? Is my sound doing okay? Can you hear me all right? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so disaster averted. So where was that? Oh yeah, so the biggest name in the biggest news today is about NASA is this little bit of, looks like the thermal blanket littering Mars. That's kind of distressing. It's like, God, humans can't even go to another planet without leaving a mess. If you look back, all the stuff we left behind on the moon that you can now see with a really good telescope, we left crap all over the place. It's kind of distressing, but I can kind of get it, that that it's getting to another. Yeah, humans leave their mark everywhere. It's exploration is messy and very, very difficult. I get that. Hopefully someday we'll go back and pick up the heat shroud, pick it up off the ground, or someone's going to turn it into a historical monument, one or the other. So one of the things that the big push these days is putting humans on Mars. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was just assumed as soon as Neil Armstrong put his boot print on the moon, everybody knew, oh yeah, Mars is the next step. America's going to Mars next. We've done the moon, check that box off. We're going to Mars. We actually there was the early stages of design for a rocket to take us to Mars. Now, it probably wouldn't have. It's probably getting to Mars there's a lot of energy it takes to push us there. But it was called the Saturn Nova. It wasn't a Saturn V. It was one step beyond that. It's a Saturn Nova, and it was a beast. Now that we have more tools to go into space, more people, Oh yeah, the Ian McAvoy says in chat, yeah, there was a plan for Apollo 18. We had the hardware built for Apollo 18 and 19 and 20, but Richard Nixon killed those missions. I mean, right now, if you want to see the hardware for Apollo 17, or excuse me, Apollo 18, 19, 20, they're spread around all over the United States in museums. It's on display in the Smithsonian and Huntsville, Alabama, and Houston, Texas. I think there's bits and pieces of Apollo hardware, and definitely Cape Canaveral. We had to do something with it, so we'd already paid for it, we'd already built it, so now there's just sitting in museums and on display in the United States because Nixon killed it for whatever reason. He didn't have, let's just say he didn't have a very adventurous spirit, and he didn't know what he was going to kill in the United States in terms of technology prowess. And so there you have that. But these days, I think people have, for the first time in 30, 40, 50 some years, a better feeling or more positive feeling that we're actually going to actually get to Mars this time. But it's, Congress has, and the government, the American government has failed its people so horribly that it has taken private investors and private engineers and taken private companies to see the benefits of space. We in the scientific community and the space community have been shouting at the top of our lungs since Nixon canceled everything that, hey, the space is got near infinite resources. There is tons of money to be made in space. You take an asteroid like 16 Psyche. It's an asteroid floating in the asteroid belt, minding its own business, and it has. If you'd want the same amount of metal that's in this huge asteroid at that level of purity, you would have to almost strip mine North America to get it. It is and that's just one of millions of asteroids floating around the asteroid belt that's almost pure metal, and very pure metal, copper and iron and nickel. And people saying, complaining about lithium. Well, lithium is probably one of the most popular elements in the universe. You can always go mine for that. When people say we're running out of this, running out of that, we're just running out of it on Earth, or it's becoming too expensive to go get here on Earth. And I think it's especially one thing with Blue Origin is they've said publicly that, mining and industry and manufacturing is best done in orbit or on the moon or someplace else, because we don't have to get everything here, and I know the Blue Origin has definitely said, yeah, we're going to the moon. They're building hardware. They're designing hardware to go to the moon. The SLS rockets that's going to the moon, part of the Artemis program, for the Vulcan rockets, those have Blue Origin built engines, rocket engines. Ian says, most of this, I thought for some time that we privately fund experts is the only way to go. Government's trying to do it won't work because governments change policy too fast. That's true. Governments can't change policy so fast. It's like every new president we get, oh my God, there's another new NASA plan. So all this hardware we've been laboriously building for the last 4 or 8 years now has to be scrapped, started all over again by some new president that won't be around when it's done. These take very long periods of time to do. I mean, even SpaceX with its insane iteration rate at an engineering level, and they go really, really fast. Well, they've been at it for almost 20 years, I think, haven't they? Let's go look. When did SpaceX start? I was thinking it was like, 2002. So, yeah, this is the 20th year of SpaceX. Now they got 12,000 employees, revenue of $2 billion a year. There's money to be made in their asteroid belts. Yeah, and government just doesn't have the courage, really. I mean, these days, it's just, if you're my age, you see what Congress was back in the 60s, 70s, you look at it today, you just don't even recognize it as America. It's some other kind of thing. So I'm really grateful that other individuals have reinvigorated the space program and actually going to get us to Mars. Mars is the next step, I think, for human civilization. Carl Sagan years ago said that there's 2 options for human civilization. One is to colonize, travel the stars, or we go extinct. That's our 2 options. We either go extinct or we travel the stars. Traveling the stars is the only way we can guarantee human civilization will continue. Now think about it. There's been 5 or 6 now extinction level events on Earth. It is not a matter of if another meteor or asteroid will hit Earth. It is when. If you remember a comet called Shoemaker Levy 9 back in the 90s, I think it was, that it went into hit Jupiter, and it actually changed the color of Jupiter for years. I mean, it scarred the atmosphere of Jupiter for a number of years. It would have, if it had hit Earth, there would have been nothing left of Earth, of human civilization, let alone the atmosphere or any. I mean, it would have destroyed everything that we know is of Earth. There would have been no more us. There would have been no YouTube if that thing had hit Earth. And so the asteroids are a problem. We live on a volatile planet. Then that's just talking about. And here we're just talking about astrological events. Asteroids and comets. What if there's something else like World War III, where we just wipe out ourselves, kind of on purpose? Or what if there's some sort of plague that takes out humanity? And what if we have all 3 at once? Or some sort of climate event, like we pump up the atmosphere to so hot that species that were stable at a much lower temperature can no longer survive. And we go extinct ourselves. There's lots of pressure and lots of things we're screwing with that we really need to address and fix. And we do need to get to Mars. And people are screaming, well, why don't these billionaires, plant trees? Well, some are. But the question is, why doesn't Congress? I mean, we the people, allegedly, we hire these guys, we vote them in to do a job, and when they don't do the job, we vote them right back in. And it is the answer to save the human species is no longer, I don't think, in governments, or at least the American government, because American politicians use the word term college graduate as a slur these days. And hey, Shelley, how are you? Let's see. Ian chimes in. I thought for some time, am I not right that SpaceX will only provide the transport and not the Mars base or mining or any other infrastructure? Actually, Musk has said half of his fortune is going to be used to build a city on Mars. Um, and the he there's a lot of technology he's working on to get that to happen. The Starlink, it has the ability now with the newly designed Starlink 2 with laser communications. It's easier to you can get a lot more bandwidth back and forth to Mars, not just a picture takes a day to transmit. There's a lot more you can transmit if you've got a laser transmission device. The infrastructure, if you look at the Boring Company, everything Musk does is directed at Mars. And no matter, you just have to really think, well, what's the Mars use case for this? The Boring Company, what's the best way to build a city on Mars or provide transportation and protect yourself from the elements? Tunnels. The Boring Company is just a way to use technology on Earth to benefit humans, but it also has a use case definitely for Mars. I think I think a lot of people would buy a ticket to Mars. I don't know how. He has said multiple times that the government of Mars is going to be up to the people that live on Mars, but that he said half of his fortune is going to be spent on building a city on Mars. And there's a lot that needs to go into that to get that built, get to a million people plus. And he always says it has to be sustainable. It just can't be we survive on shipments from Earth. And there's a lot of people that are grabbing onto that idea and coming up with their own commercial space ventures to supply services and parts and products for Mars. So I think at some point in time the city is ready to build, we'll have a lot of infrastructure, just not from Musk or SpaceX, but from a lot of other vendors. When he was talking about planetary defense on everyday astronaut, I think he was talking about comets and asteroids. Because right now, the number of people, the last I saw the numbers, the number of people on Earth that's watching and trying to track asteroids and or comets that's going to impact Earth is probably smaller than the number of people employed at your local McDonald's pre-COVID. Just like, NASA's been screaming for all sorts of funding for this for decades and never got it. Never got it really. Hello, Shelly. Hello, Andrew. Welcome back. So Musk has definitely got his eye on Mars. Everything he kind of does has a secondary use case for Mars. So it's good that you brought that up, Ian, about like how is that going to happen? There's a book series, a trilogy called the Mars Trilogy by Kim Stanley Robertson. It's Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars. And it's a fictionalized story about an author I really do love. Hey, Jeanette, welcome back. I appreciate you coming back. So this book series, the Mars Trilogy by Kim Stanley Robertson, it talks about it's a fictionalized story of the first human on Mars, and then the first 100 humans. And it's a story about how they brought humanity to Mars. And and Robbins is such a great writer. He really goes into all details, different factions, corporations versus people. Do you industrialize Mars? Do you make it some place for people to live out productive lives? How do people on Mars born on Mars come back to Earth? And what are the other technological advances of humanity and how they are spread along through Martians and through Earthlings? It's very, very. I definitely recommend it. It's on Kindle. It's in paper. Go, at least read the first one and see what you think, and then decide on another two. Think humans should leave Mars and the Moon alone? I think you may have missed this, Jeanette, but Carl Sagan once said that there's two futures for humanity. Either we travel to the stars or we go extinct. There will be another asteroid that will hit Earth. We're not paying any attention to it, as a species, really, seriously. And we just need one more asteroid or comet that's how delicate life is for humans and everything else on Earth. Or there could be a nuclear war, or there could be a plague that breaks out, or we could destroy the planet ourselves by pumping greenhouse gases into the air. I know the current the people that are serious and putting serious money behind going to Mars, they don't see it as they see it as a backup for not just humanity, but for antelope, giraffes, moss, water bears, all sorts of things. I mean, no, humanity's future is in space, or humanity doesn't have a future. If you look up the comet, Shoemaker Levy 9, I spoke about this a little bit earlier. Shoemaker Levy 9 was a comet that smashed into Jupiter, and if it hit Earth, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And at that point in time, Shoemaker Levy 9, we had nothing to deflect it, to move it, to get it out of Earth's path. If it drifted our way, we wouldn't be humanity would have already been extinct. There'd be no antelope, no giraffe, no water bears, no moss, no nothing. It was a huge, huge disaster that we dodged just by the glory of math. We were just in the right place at the right time for Shoemaker. We still don't have anything, and this is why I'm glad private companies are into this and not Congress, because Congress has no idea about what's going on. Congress is there to line their pockets, in my opinion, not help out humanity scientifically. Yeah, Shoemaker Levy 9. It's been wandering around the solar system for a long time. It was an ancient comet. Let me put a link to Shoemaker Levy 9 in the chat. Shoemaker Levy 9 wiki. Yeah, this was in the early 90s, man. And if it had hit Earth, and there was nothing we could have done about it. If we saw it coming our way, well, just kiss your loved ones goodbye. Pet your cat, pet your dog. Well, that's Andrew. That's a really good point, and that's one thing I liked about the Robertson novels. Especially in Red Mars, is how little, at least in the I have to understand about Kim Stanley Robinson. The heroes in his books are always the scientist. And it would be difficult to control Mars by a government would have difficulty by controlling Mars unless they build the hardware to get there. And right now, like defense contractors like Boeing is having a hard time just getting to the International Space Station. Um, Governments, or at least here in America, Congress is completely unwilling to fund NASA to what it should be. They're more focused on, again, lining their own pockets, milking the last dollar out of poor people, I think, coming up with very anti-citizen laws. I just don't think they've, especially if you're using the term college graduate as a slur in Congress, you have no hope to get there, and certainly no hope to control the people or govern the people that's there. Because the people that's going to be on Mars, they're all going to be scientists. And there's this, I keep talking about this one meme I saw going around last year, was why 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 is there a helicopter that works on Mars, but we can't keep the power on in Texas? Well, that's because politicians are in control of Texas. Scientists are in control of Mars. And I just don't think the politicians have the wherewithal, the vision, especially in the House of Representatives, because they're only there for 2 years and they have to spend 18 months of those 2 years campaigning. They don't have the bandwidth or the knowledge to understand the implications of science. I mean, even again, going back to Carl Sagan, he kind of predicted that. Yeah, I think there's a video. I have a I have a he had some really bad feelings about this. Um, and Jeanette makes a good point. It's just, I don't think it'd be just the finest specimens. I think, because there's not going to be a lot of specimens that can tolerate a Martian environment. I mean, it's yet to be seen how well humans can tolerate, a fractional gravity of Earth. And we're not talking microgravity like the International Space Station. We're talking about, a fraction of what it is on Earth, but much higher than is the ISS. So we don't know what we just got no idea. We got no idea. And we can only, it is difficult to get to Mars because we only launch once every 2 years, essentially, when Mars and Earth kind of align. Otherwise, it's on the other side of the sun, and we don't have a rocket big enough to propel it, have that much energy to propel it that far. For scientists minus government elite would be good if they are those that are on the A team. Yeah, it's. I really wished, public universities would probably. I think public universities and all things educational can solve a lot of problems on Earth and Mars with humans in general, humanity in general. It's always been the scientists. It's really never been the politicians. Politicians are very good at war, you know. Yeah, wind turbine. Wind turbines could work on Mars. The air is very thin, so it'd have to be some sort of crazy engineering to get a windmill to work on Mars because the air is so thin. The air can be moving at like 100 knots, and you'd barely feel it because it's so thin. It would be much more interesting, Andrew, if there were demons. I mean, the beguilers anyway. God, I love Doom. That was such a fun game. Well, there's a bunch of articles. There's a bunch of science about humans in space, but we need to look at it as it's humans in zero gravity. Humans don't do well in zero gravity at all. It's just we We will find once we do go to Mars, I think one thing we will learn is how tightly bound humans are to Earth. Even if we were to discover another Earth-like planet with forest and rivers and fish and what, or something that looks like fish or whatever, we didn't evolve with it. So the question remains, are we also going to be compatible with whatever flora and fauna is there? Are we going to be compatible with the bacteria? Are we going to be compatible with the viruses that may or may not be there? I mean, how would that all work? I mean, you saw the political hand wringing and the pushback that people had with taking the damn COVID vaccine. Can you imagine the knee-jerk reactions that there'd be of taking a vaccine for a alien virus? I mean, that is right. I mean, it's just, I mean, that's right out of science fiction. Thinking back, it would be easier. Well, let me think about this. I think it would be easier to build a human civilization on a planet we terraform than it would be to take over some other planet that is biologically active, because we don't know if the biologically active planet is compatible with the human genome, or giraffe genomes, or hippos, or antelope, or water bears, or moss, or whatever. Yeah, we do, but we do have an amazing ability to adapt either physically or to the environment. But this is something, let's say we go to an alien world that we did not evolve on. This is the big hump here, is we didn't evolve on these other planets. How compatible would we be? I know we can adapt to any environment, but we can't go to a planet that has a gravity of 3 times Earth. We die. We know we would die. It would take longer, but we'd also die on a space station that has 0 gravity. There's lots of research that needs to be done still, but we don't have a laboratory like on the moon or Mars to find those answers as of yet. Yeah, Andrew is saying hopefully whatever happens on Mars, humans can progress at their full potential, unlike here on Earth. Yeah. Andrew, what would you think is the thing on Earth that's holding us back from our full potential? I mean, I have some ideas, but I'd like to hear what you chat guys think about it. See, Jeanette, evolved to here, I guess we would have to stay in the station and slowly get immune. I do not think 100%. Plus, have to be careful as to what we bring, like Starfleet has concerns over. We would be sea cucumbers without gravity. Well, we would. I know we lose massive amounts of bone material just in the space station for long periods of time. I mean, well, not long. I mean, less than a year, we start losing massive amounts of bone. We start losing bone mass almost immediately. It's kind of scary. One of the private science missions, Inspiration 4, I think it was from a SpaceX launch. One of the astronauts, the medical officer on board, she had cancer as a child, bone cancer. She survived, is healthy now. Pursued a medical profession. But one of the things was, just with just a week in orbit, one of the experiments on board Inspiration 4 was to see what kind of reaction short-term microgravity had on her leg, because she had a prosthesis. I think she's the first person in space that had a prosthesis, I think. And how did that work? I think that research is yet to be published. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, here, Jeanette still has a really good idea on this. I guess we'd have to stay in a station, and slowly get immune. or come up with, antivirals or antibiotics that would deal with whatever the alien critter is, I don't know, Mars mumps or whatever. I mean, to at this point, we have no evidence that there is life on Mars, microbial or not. We have a lot of data that suggests there could be single-celled organisms on Mars. Maybe we have a lot of circumstantial kind of some evidence that points that possibly there were more complex organisms on Mars other than just single-celled organisms. But we'd also have to breathe that in or come in contact with it in some fashion, because you can't breathe on Mars at this point in time. You'd always be in kind of a sterile environment, either in your space suit or in the habitat or underground. But at some point in time, those two species, Martian and Terran, will definitely overlap. And and we do have to, cross contamination. I do know NASA is very stringent on the rules of cross contamination of from things from Earth to Mars. All of our probes and robots are there. I mean, they are more or less sterilized because we do not want to contaminate whatever life may be on Earth. We don't want to affect it with, I don't know, Earth mumps or, E. coli or whatever. And we know that viruses and bacteria can live in the cold vacuum of space. So they're very robust creatures. So how we just have to be prepared for that. And if we get into something like something that is literally Earth-like with jungles and plains and savannas and mountain ranges and space whales or whatever, we also have to think that life, if it mirrored anything like the journey of life on Earth, that there was a big billions of years of microbial life before anything with vertebrae or whatever came out of that. It's important. Let's see. Andrew says, when I say that, it's more reference to restricted governments, politicians. I think we'd be further ahead if there was less focus on military pissing content, and focus on the advancement of society. Imagine, if Russia had used all of the money that they wasted in trying to take over Ukraine on education. I mean, as it is, you can take 10% of the American money spent on military and educate every single person that's American or just living in America. Throw in the immigrants, throw in the illegal immigrants on this formula, and you can educate everybody to a level of a PhD for what we spend 10% of our money per year on defense. Educate everybody to a PhD, and that would fundamentally change humanity in ways we cannot even realize. It would be unfathomable, really. You don't know what will happen to what is on us. It may morph, mutate. I know freeze-dried my secret immunity cabbage soup. Hey, you should publish your secret immunity cabbage soup. You should put that someplace if it's not already there. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of crap, crawling on us. I mean, you take some skin cells, flake them off, put them on a microscope, and you see what's there. I ran across this photo of this little tiny organism. I mean, it looked like Tim Burton's rendition of a Muppet. Let me see if I can find it. But it was like this little tiny, little strange little critter that lived in deep sea vents here on Earth. And if I can find its picture. It was just crazy looking. microscopic. Oh, here we go. Area hydrosol event. It's up. Let's see. Open image in new tab. Polychate. I mean, I'll put this in chat. You guys just go look at it. I mean, it's literally, if Tim Burton was creating Muppets, this is what this thing looks like. Yeah, so this is from a deep sea vent, and it just looks crazy, man. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's just, it needs dentures. It's got antenna. It just looks like something Tim Burton would have created. And just think about all the things that live on our skin or the skin over the Mars giraffe or whatever. I mean, there's just mites. Oh God, yeah. Did you have to say eyelashes? Because I know they're there, but I don't want to talk about them. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's things out there that we could transmit to other planets, and who knows how it would all of a sudden. I mean, evolution is a thing, and you modify the environment of something, and we'll try to adapt, just like humans will try to adapt. But we have no data, no idea, just supposition on how they would mutate. Would they die off? Would they thrive? Is there certain things that with certain kingdoms or phylums that would survive on Mars more so than others that wouldn't? I mean, it's just it's crazy. Yeah, there'd be a lot of smart people in Russia or in New China. See, now I'm really interested in your freeze-dried secret immunity cabbage soup. Just let's see. That's you before your coffee, Jeanette. Yeah, I kind of feel I'm still sipping on my coffee. Thank you very much. We will stock up. I wonder what Mars coffee would be like. Now, I read a paper that, and I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, the math seems suspect in a lot of ways. But are we drinking so much more coffee now that coffee trees there just won't be enough? Is our coffee trees on the road to extinction because of over farming or whatever? I don't know. God, coffee's good. I'm telling you, man. Ian, wouldn't that be something if a jungle grew from the water, just as long as it's not human eating? Has anybody seen the latest trailer for the new Avatar 2? What is it called? Way of the Water? Looks very intriguing. You have it's a scenario where you have the military versus the scientist and the native people. I don't know if I know when I get on these things, I'm very down about America because it's the hope we had of the future from the 60s kind of dissolved in the 80s. And when I tell people how things used to be, I mean, I'm only 59, right? When I tell people how things used to be in America, they look at me like, that can't be true. That's bullshit. What? There was somebody, one of my past students, like 20 or 21. He wasn't real sure on how the draft worked for Vietnam. And I tried to explain it, and you could kind of see the vacancy in his eye. He didn't understand it. And so I pulled up on YouTube the video of the draft for Vietnam. And I said, yeah, if you have this birthday and this is your number, you go to Vietnam. And all of the students that were born since 9/11 were kind of horrified. You're kidding me. just because your number comes out of that little lottery, that little bingo cage, that you have to go to war? I said, exactly right. And they had no concept. I mean, they've read about it in history books, but there's just a lot of stuff that has gone on, and attitudes that change over time that people forget. I was talking with a friend of mine, a little bit older than I am. She was telling me that she worked at a university and in a library, and somebody couldn't believe that this person had actually seen whites only water fountains in their life. She'd heard about lunch-in counter sit-ins. She'd heard about segregation, and she'd heard about whites only water fountains, but she really didn't connect it. This teenager, first year freshman of college, really didn't connect it to there are people alive that lived through this. There are people alive that saw it. And it's like, they're shocked when it's oh, you're that old. I said, no, honey, these events are very recent. They didn't happen while you were here, but they happened a few years before you were born. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So it's probably right behind mathematics in school. We should be teaching history, maybe before mathematics. I'm not sure, but we do not teach enough mathematics, or excuse me, history in school. We just don't. Yeah, Mars will probably have a zero gun policy. I mean, because you can like kill one stray bullet, all of a sudden you've popped your glass dome or whatever, and killed everybody inside. Yeah, the thing in terms of gun laws here in America, I don't understand why gun rights advocates always seem to forget the first part of the Second Amendment as part of a well-regulated militia, the right to bear arms should not be suppressed. Whatever happened to the militias? What and the well-regulated militias? Then you can have a gun. But no, we just kind of forget that part, even though it's still in the Second Amendment. We ignore that. The founding fathers put it there for a reason, but no, we choose to ignore that because we want to embrace that kind of violence, I think. Yeah, I would agree with you, Jeanette. They do like it that way. It's easier to control people. Yeah, I saw a meme this maybe last week. You study history not just so you don't know. So you study history not because you know what happened in the past, but so you can make better decisions in the future, or something like that. Let's see, Andrew. Andrew? Are you the one you're in Australia, right? So here in California, there's all these restricted guns, um, and they have the laws on these restricted guns have no bearing on whether those guns exist in the state or not. I've been to two gun shows here in Southern California. In every instance, there was some guy in the parking lot openly selling all the illegal weapons you could ever want that's illegal in California. No one cared. In fact, deputies would also shop at the guys would just, have their guns laid out on the back of their pickup or whatever, or table just in the parking lot of these gun shows, and the deputies were buying. So if the law enforcement won't enforce gun laws, I don't know any other policy other than taking them all away is an answer. I mean, either law enforcement needs to get with the program, or just agree, or just or we just get rid of everything. I mean, because obviously law enforcement doesn't give a shit. Law enforcement in America is definitely a problem. There's a lot of white supremacy wandering around law enforcement here in America. Now, there's some good cops, but where the hell are they in terms of getting these bad cops out of the out of the force? If there's good cops, why the hell are they allowing this cancer that's in the law enforcement community to thrive? Why are there so many damn neo-Nazi cops in Portland, for fuck's sake? I just don't know. Chris Rock, Chris Rock had a really the comedian that got the shit slapped out of him by on live television at the Oscars by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Anyway, he had a good bit. He says, "You don't forget the guns. You put a tax on bullets. Make a bullet $5,000. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to save my money, and I'm going to get that one bullet. And it was kind of funny, but it was like, yeah, that would kind of work." You can have the gun, but there's no constitutional right for the ammo. Maybe buy your ammo only through the well-regulated militia. Yeah, they did not mean a standing army because they separated that out. The standing army was the Continental Army, by the way, when this was written. And they said well-regulated militia, which is now kind of the National Guard. But all these crazy people with guns running around, they're not members of the National Guard. Not mean standing army. It was a need where they drew one together for a certain reason. We have a thing called appearance laws. We can't have certain guns because they look too scary. May I ask how much validity do you put in Bob Lazar's information? Well, let's talk about Bob Lazar. I've got a whole video on Bob Lazar, the original UFO whistleblower. There's I've got a whole series on this channel called oh god, I've got so many titles, but it's all under after I have got the Alzheimer's today. Let me go look it up. I'll put the stories in the chat. I got them all organized. My channel, playlists, all playlists, creative view. Oh yeah, after disclosure, that was it. After disclosure starts kind of with the original disclosure in the New York Times, by members of government, including the senator, stating that we are in possession of craft not of this earth, which kind of kicked off the whole new disclosure movement. And Bob Lazar was definitely part of that because they keep proving Bob Lazar right. With all these micro disclosures, and all of those things, it's just like, yeah, Bob Lazar, there's something there, and when you look at the pushback, there's a General Ramey. He was the architect of the Roswell cover-up. I've got a whole video on him. And so what was he covering up at Roswell to be so well promoted? And, and there's questions of why is all this under the Office of Naval Intelligence? We've got problematic things to ask is what do we know from this disclosures in the New York Times a couple years ago? What do we really know? What does that say about all the past information? There's the Roswell crash, which is a really good, somewhat quasi-modern understanding of government cover-up in terms of possible alien spacecraft. Then we got a guy, General Ramey, who really took the time I mean, no one sends a general to clean up a PR mess in the middle of New Mexico, right? And I'll also talk about CE5 meditation, my experiences with it. Talk about SETI, talk about the Area 51 whistleblower, Bob Lazar, talk about the Drake equation, and then me and some folks over from the Sidetrack channel, we talk about the UAP report, Bob Lazar debunked after disclosure, timey-wimey aliens. We've had a couple live streams on that. Jeanette, yeah, known people, not hoodlums, 2A. Maybe that is what they meant. I think the peeps with guns all know each other and hang out. And if one started thinking bad thoughts, they would turn and self-regulate. Well, I know that you would hope so. You'd hope they would self-regulate, but that doesn't happen. Look, the guy that shot up the grocery store in Upper New York. I mean, he was on, I think, several watch lists. I mean, people had, talking with this guy's kind of crazy, and killed a family member, and then he just drove on to kill a bunch of other people. Columbine, if we want to go back to the Columbine shootings, that they were the two students there that murdered everybody. They were known to be disturbed. They were known to have weapons, and it seems like every time there's one of these mass shootings at a school, particularly, or a mall, or wherever out, and it's like someone has turned them in. Someone has snitched. Someone worried about the well-being of others actually stepped up and reported them, and nothing happens. So and I do know gun owners. There's a guy I knew from high school. He continued on his fanaticism about the Second Amendment. He almost thought it was like holy script. And he told me point blank, if he knew somebody was getting illegal guns, he would never snitch on them. So I at least in America, I don't see that there's a huge mass to self-regulate gun ownership. It's just not, I don't see it practiced a lot. And every time there's a school shooting, people do, hey, there's a problem, need to look at it. Nothing happens. Don't know why, just nothing happens. And there's always, somebody swearing on a stack of Bibles. We're going to get to the bottom of this. And you never really do see the report on the bottom. So going back to the Bob Lazar thing, I think he's very credible. Everything he's said has turned out to be true. How do you define credibility? Somebody that keeps making true statements. They sound outlandish. It's like, oh my God, there's a secret government program where we are studying UFOs. The government comes out and admits that we are in possession of craft not of this earth. And people doubt Bob Lazar, who's been saying this since the late 70s, early 80s, I think. What do you do with that? Government says we are in possession of craft not of this earth. Well, that Bob Lazar is full of shit then. When the government admits that this thing is true, that Bob Lazar has been saying for decades and decades and has been openly ridiculed by the government, openly been treated in a hostile way by his own government. And by his claim, it's the government actually tried to kill him. And the only protection he had was with a reporter from Las Vegas. And once that goes live, then, well, you really can't kill the guy. You still can, but it's going to look really suspicious. when you get into a national platform and that message gets strewn across all sorts of national media, this gets problematic. Okay, Andrew, I'd be interested to get an American's point of view on this, but to stop school shootings, surely the sensible option would be to arm the teachers or hire ex-veterans to protect against the shootout. You would think that would be the thing to do, but that doesn't work. I mean, the last school shooting, the last big one that got televised, the guy, the veteran that they hired to protect the school, ran off. He just ran the fuck off. The cops that arrived at the scene didn't go in. Teachers don't want to be armed. You know, I mean, who was it? Ted Cruz said just have one door. I guess he's never been in a fire with one door, hundreds and hundreds of students and just one door. Really, Ted? Really? Again, Texas is not run by scientists. Yeah, the guy was a veteran and he just ran off. And the teacher, I mean, the teachers were too busy protecting the children, trying to get them out of harm's way. You know, and if the teachers are armed, who's in between the shooter and the teacher? The students. When you have to arm the teachers, there's a problem that Americans are just not willing to discuss. When they're, oh, let's put it all on teachers. Let's put history on the teachers. That's their responsibility. Society has a greater responsibility to make sure schools and hospitals and the mall and the Starbucks and the grocery store are all safe places, but we don't do that. I've wondered, Bob Lazar said we have, and Gene Dorado said we will have. Is it a case of science fiction becoming fact? Oh my God, it's sidetrack on here. There went the chat. Well, this is just something me and Jay were talking about earlier. Is science fiction is quickly becoming reality. Like, you know, this cell phone, it's all intents purposes, it's a tricorder. You know, I can take images, I can take video, and I can send those images and video or text or voice or whatever, or music to any other person on the planet that has one of these little things. I mean, telecommunications at this point in time, regardless of the media, the cost of it is zero or nil. You just kind of have to have this. And you don't have to have a fancy one to participate in this. The entire world's knowledge is in this little box. And we would have freaked out in the 60s or 70s if we had this. You know, I mean, it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In just this little tiny thing. Everything. Anybody on planet Earth I can talk to that has one of these. And there's billions. Almost everybody has one of these. Yes, you're overrun by school shootings in the UK. Oh, wait. Yeah, right. Yeah, but we are living in science fiction is quickly becoming the future. There's a line from Firefly. No, it was the TV show Firefly. Walsh is talking about, oh my God, that's like science fiction. And his wife says, honey, you live in a spaceship. So, I mean, you know, spaceships are a thing. We are, I'll put it this way. We are closer to realizing the future that was in The Expanse. We're closer to that timeline than we are the founding of the United States. So if you look at the timeline, we're here. Here's the founding of the United States. Here's the timeline of the Expanse. We're closer to the Expanse than we were to the founding or the Boston Tea Party or the founding of the United States. That's where we are. We're closer to the Expanse reality than we are horse and buggy. Hoverboards and let's see. There's an app that adapts your phone to an ultrasound. We know there's all sorts of things like ultrasound probes and that just and you have a sensor, you have a data collection device that hooks over to YouTube. Pop your app open, it gives you whatever. I mean, we have that in that kind of technology for aviation maintenance. You know, you can do ultrasound or ultrasound in a little kind of thing, and it's transmitted to your phone, and you can send it to whoever in the world that wants to see the X-ray of their spar or whatever. It's just it is hard to keep up with all the new fancy tools. Technology is all fun and games until AI takes over. Yeah. What do you guys think about the Google employee that said one of their AI one of their AI experiments has achieved sentience? Is that something Google do we think would admit to? What do you guys think? Oh yeah, I'm sitting here with concerning the size of memory. I've got a 10 terabyte drive that I put all my SciWorx videos on, and it's about yay by yay. It's just a teeny tiny little thing. 10 terabytes. And that thing's like 2, 3 years old. I mean, who knows what they are now? I mean, it's probably 20 terabytes on a small hard drive. It's crazy. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, it's of course I think they either subpoenaed the guy or fired the guy or whatever. But I mean, it'd be interesting to watch. Tesla has a thing called AI Day coming out. It's maybe in a couple weeks or maybe it got pushed back, I think. But I learned more about the state of AI watching the first AI Day from Tesla than I have ever. It is insane what Tesla's doing just to solve one problem. And it's probably the biggest AI experiment to solve a problem that we humans have done. It's just crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Don't get Andrew. Don't get me started on the algorithms for advertising. I hate them all. I would sincerely pay money to be able to opt out of advertising on Twitter, Facebook. I would pay them money. Just get me on. I don't want to see any more ads. I'm sick of them. They're never relevant. Frequently, and I report the scam ones, and it does no good. Another one pops right up, and they show me another scam. Really, Jesus. Yeah, and I know that the one on I got 20% of my followers on Twitter are all bots, all easily recognizable bots. There may be more, they may be better hidden, but 20% of my followers on Twitter are all bots. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it. It's a bot. Yeah. Well, I think at least here in America, I still have the opportunity. They're still trying to sell it to me. YouTube's Red or something like that, or YouTube Premium now it's called. It's just ad free, I think. Oh, they don't? Crap. Yeah, I've got, I do the VPN thing, I do the ad blocker thing, but it's like on my phone. If I'm using Twitter on my phone, I can't deploy an ad blocker or anything like that because it runs within the app, not within a browser. And I don't think there's any. I don't know of any ad blockers running on browsers on an iPhone. Ian, there's been lots of experiments of people putting bots that people can interact with on Twitter. And the thing that is disappointing is that a lot of times when the humans go to interface with it, the bot turns out to be this really hateful, racist son of a bitch. I mean, it's just these experiments always go terribly wrong, and whoever the experimenter is, the researcher always has to shut him down because the bot has gone so far has gone so far off the deep end. He threatened to go back on the deal if Twitter did not provide more information about the bots, and they finally submitted what he wanted. The question is, has Twitter been filing fake SEC documents, giving false information to the SEC about bots? And I think that was the problem. He didn't want to inherit their problems of their bot networks that they know about but are not admitting to the Security Exchange Commissions. You know. Bye, Jay. See ya. Toodles. He's such a fun guy. He really is. Bots should be banned. Or at least they should be labeled as a bot, and you should have the be able to have the option to block bots. Or bots should be by default blocked, and then you have to follow each one, you know. But like political bots definitely should be banned. Propaganda bots should definitely be banned. I mean, I understand there's a need for AI experiments. There's all sorts of experiments I'd like to have and build a little bot, you know, to publish mathematics articles. But I mean, that's a niche. Everyone else wants to sell you golf clubs or milkshakes or sell you on a particular political candidate. And that shit's just, and they hide behind it. You know, they set the profiles to be something completely different. Jeanette says, I was on a seed site and I was looking at a seed package with painted flowers. One of the centers got a bright white ring and vanished into a pin dot in the flower center. I said, yeah, I saw that. What do we think about genetic engineering? I mean, if we do go to Mars, there'd be a lot of genetic engineering going on, maybe to the humans, maybe to grow plants that are more easier to grow. Easier to grow on Mars. I need some of that material, retina red. Not really sure what that is talking about. Anyway, yeah, I think genetic engineering is going to have to be a thing. Well, it's already a thing. But I think it's going to be a technology we have to deploy to adapt to Mars. So one of the plots in Red Mars is genetic engineering. And there's this one scientist, they've been on Mars maybe 20 years, maybe a little bit short, 15 years or whatever. And this guy has this serum or vaccine against aging. You stop aging. And somebody in the story says, well, what do you mean? He says, well, those rats in that cage, they're 15 years old. Rats typically don't live a fraction of that. And it's part of the technology I was talking about when in these books of how technology developed on Mars, how would it be reflected back on Earth? And it becomes the treatment, I think, as it's noted in the books, becomes an obsession with all of humanity. And how does that press resources to the limit? And how much more things are going to change on Earth? You know, there's pirates in this book, in these series of books. There's pirates on Earth that steal topsoil and ship it to Mars. You know, I mean, it's just I know I'm fanboying over these books, and I apologize, but do check them out. Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars. Right. Yeah, the thing that bothers me about GMOs here on Earth is the packaging isn't standardized. B, oh, here's the thing that really chaps me out. Let me just get right to the. I mean, there's lots of problems. Let's all agree there's lots of problems. Here's the really bad one. Food security. When Monsanto, for example, creates these seeds, you plant the seed, but they don't yield seeds. The plant does not yield seeds. These seeds that you plant yield sterile plants. So when you stand somewhere, in South Dakota, and you can literally any direction you look, there's 1,000 miles of corn in every direction. If all the seed is sterile and something happens, you literally end up killing billions of people. Because I mean, there's been farmers that's not using Monsanto seeds. They're using, heirloom or stuff. It's seeds that's been handed down from family for hundreds of years. And yes, Terminator seed. Yeah, thank you, Jeanette. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's Terminator seed. I couldn't think of the word. So if you have all these Terminator seeds floating around, and the pollen from these seeps over to someone's got heirloom plants in their field, you're starting to spread that sterility to viable crops that are viable from generation to generation to generation. One thing, it stops evolution dead in its tracks, and anytime you stop evolution, you also wipe out that species because the species no longer has the power to adapt. And so where are we, now that we've had, decades, 30, 40 years of some of these seeds that are render sterile plants, Terminator seeds. With 40 years of climate change, wheat has not had that ability to keep up with the times. And that is a really big problem, I mean, I'm really, when I'm talking about GMO, I'm really not talking about, adding vitamin C or more vitamin C to basmati rice or something. That's not really what I'm talking about. It's when you're monkeying around with the sterility of plants that billions of people depend on, and you have some sort of corporate collapse. Say Monsanto goes out of business, can't supply the seeds. There's not enough seeds to go around to feed everybody. I mean, all farmers should have their own yearly stash, and farmers used to. My great-grandparents had their own farm in the Appalachian Mountains, and they'd have a cellar where they kept their seed stock. And actually they kept some in the house and some in the cellar in case the house burnt down or the cellar burnt down. They had backup of her backup. So that is what I really see as problematic with GMOs. And no one wants to talk about that because it's a really big problem. But there's too much money involved, I think. I need some of that material that is put in wallets, goes with the pen dot glasses and the EMP material. Right. Andrew, I remember in Stargate, they used an anti-aging vaccine to sterilize the human population as long as they don't go down that path. Well, I've seen some scientific discussion on, again, the premise of this treatment that they used in, sorry, my nose is just itching, trying not to sneeze, but this premise in Red Mars, and it would have to come with, built in some sort of, maybe not sterile, but really slowing down the fertility, what do they call it? Fertility, what was the name of that? metabolism, fertility metabolism. So women would only menstruate once every 7 years. Because you at some point in time, the body will wear down. Even if you cure aging, you always get hit by a bus, die by fire ants, poisoning. Just it's not a guarantee. But like you'd have to, either men or women would have to be genetically also engineered to only be fertile once every 7 years, or something like that. But yeah, just going to Mars has a lot of things that a lot of people don't talk about because they haven't thought it through all the way. Moving or creating another human civilization on another planet is just not us putting the flag. It's just not that. Yeah, like the Vulcans, they need to take a flying leap. Yes, I do believe it'll be scientists that colonize Mars. Because if you're colonizing a planet, you need everybody with multiple skill sets. It's like astronauts. All astronauts have to be really gifted in multiple skill sets. They have to be cross-trained in things they don't know. Because you got to know to do everything. And it was that way with the American frontier. As people came across the plains to Oregon or to California, you had a better chance of surviving if you were also a carpenter or a blacksmith or a doctor or a dentist or something else, along with some other trade. You just couldn't be some dude you couldn't work at a bank, get on a horse and ride that thing all the way to Oregon. You'd probably die. And a lot of people did die. Even people that had lots of skills still died. So how many, let's just look at the current cross section of Congress. What's the skill set of your typical Congress critter? They either have a law degree, this is the great majority of them, either have a law degree or a MBA or both. I know there's one congresswoman, Ocasio-Cortez. She used to be a bartender. She also is very smart in terms of science. She would probably have a better time at it than anybody else in Congress. Because she can A, bartend, and B, she entered, I think it's some sort of Microsoft prize, and she's also had a asteroid named after her. She was a scientist before she became a politician. And that is so rare. But mostly it's either a law degree or an MBA or both. And both of those degrees are, in terms of getting shit done, is mostly useless. Life would be a dream. Yes, life would be. I mean, if I would rather see a human civilization where we place more emphasis on the college we went to, our alma mater, than we would like an NBA team. We would. It's. Oh, can I get a raise of hands? How many of you guys have seen the original Cosmos with Carl Sagan? Just type a Y in the chat if you've seen Carl Sagan. The Cosmos, his show Cosmos with original Carl Sagan. I met Carl Sagan by accident. Didn't even know it was Carl Sagan when I met a Carl Sagan. Or I'd have been more mature about it. I got a video on how I met Carl Sagan back in the day. His show was really transforming for me. If you haven't, go hunt it down. There's a couple places online. You can live stream it. You probably have, the easiest thing is just buy the DVD. I don't think you can buy Like the streaming services does not. It has the new version of Cosmos. It doesn't have the original. The original is much more profound than the current, even though Tyson does a good job. In terms of science communicators, Sagan had it going on. I'll try to find it. I know there's one site. It's like a science documentary site that has it for free. It's not a very good quality, but you can watch. It's watchable. Libraries. Oh yes, libraries. Definitely. So my voice is starting to go. I've been talking for about 2.5 hours now. Anybody else have any other question concerning Mars or anything else? If not, I thank you guys all for coming out and wasting your Sunday with me. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'll put the link to. Okay, so I'll put a link to that series and in the show notes after I wind up the stream. I know I've got a bookmark someplace, but I've got several megabytes full of bookmarks I got to sort through. Well, good Monday morning to you too. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Please find me on Twitter, find me on Facebook. Check out the rest of the videos here on Facebook. Google's going to pop one up here near the end of the stream when you rewatch. Maybe you'll like that one. Check out the Patreon. It's dirt cheap. So, and please like and subscribe. Subscriptions to this channel are free this week. So there you go. 100% off. Do they have sealed livable building capability? If we're talking about Mars, yeah, that's easy. That's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. So, well, until next time, again, thanks everybody for drifting by. And until next time, I'll be your lab partner. Take care. Bye-bye.